And we're on. Well, thank you very much, and welcome to our third episode of AI Readiness for Salesforce. My name is Luca, and I'm your host. I'm the co-founder here at Vinton, an ISV solution that brings AI note-taking and conversation intelligence to Salesforce, turning conversations into Salesforce data. And today, with me on this episode, I'm very excited because we have Pei. Pei, do you want to introduce yourself? Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Luca. It is quite exciting for me to be here to talk to you and have a conversation about AI. So my name is Pei Mun Lim. I have about 30 years of project delivery experience in the consulting side. So the first 16 years I was working with at Microsoft partners. So I was client facing, I was a configurator, I was SQL DBA, I was a tester, a trainer, and then I became project manager, and that's kind of when I came over to the Salesforce side about 2012. So again, I stayed in the consulting space, delivering projects for companies like Big Positive, Capgemini, and then I moved on to an ISV called Fontiva for a short while. Since 2020, I've struck out on my own. I run my own business now called Zenhow Academy, and I train consultants for partners in the realm of project delivery, consulting, project management as well. But again, very, very targeted only for partners because that's, we do things slightly differently from a client-facing project manager. So that's me.
Well, thank you very much. A very relevant experience, I guess, for our audience, especially, I would say, the second part. The first part with Microsoft, I don't think it will go down very well with my friends at Salesforce. No, I'm joking. So, Pei, you just mentioned, incredible relevant experience working with consultancies and helping them understand how to run efficiently discovery, how to run projects, how to manage the process, the underlying process of delivering a CRM implementation, for instance. Now, things are changing dramatically in our ecosystem with the agentic AI advent and obviously Agentforce. How are people that you deal with getting ready to deal with the changes that are in the ecosystem?
So there's a really interesting question. There's a couple of angles to look at it. From the partner side, the consulting side, everyone is on board, especially since Mark Benioff started talking about it and pushing Agentforce. So everyone's getting certified. Everyone's looking to get their training on Trailhead and getting the relevant exams done and trying to make themselves out into Agentforce ready partner.
Yes.
So that's the partner side. From the end user side, from the customer side, it's quite different that I am seeing. So a lot of them are very attracted by the idea of AI. But from my point of view, I am not quite sure whether they are AI ready yet. They want it, but in order to be AI ready, some foundations, some fundamentals have to be in place in order to have an excellent experience. Because things like data hygiene, like technical debt, like very clean, efficient process flows within the system end to end, many organizations are not there yet. But all of us are kind of like seduced by the shiny things.
Yeah, so interesting because obviously, I mean, we've all seen the demo, and if you run a business and you see that demo, then you want that, right? So you want exactly what is happening on screen. And you said it right, though, there are blockers on the way. You pointed out a few that have to do with the system, the processes that are already in place, data hygiene and discipline around data, I guess. And you talked about consultants getting certifications. Are those certifications going to help them help their clients overcome the obstacles between status quo today and Agentforce nirvana tomorrow?
I think it will equip them with the understanding of the AI layer, but what you're talking about is quite fundamental from what we do as consultants is taking customer from state A to state B,
Yeah.
which should be an improvement either from no CRM to a CRM with multiple clouds, or a very basic CRM to a much bigger, nicer, which is what Agentforce might be. That is a fundamental skill of any consultant. I think we're talking about change management. How do we get people ready to adopt the system? So the sexy platform is just one part of it. To get there, there are so many multiple steps that um, people don't pay attention to.
And I'm thinking, so you're basically painting a picture where there are, all the different moving parts of a successful agentic, Agentforce process and implementation delivery. One is the technology, and let's give that for granted. It's a given. Salesforce is taking care of that. Technology will be there if it's not there already. Then there's systems, right? So we're at home with the clients, and they have some data issues, some process issues, some implementation, technical debt. You said some things to fix, and then there's people that are helping the clients, people at the clients that need to be managed into the new world, right? So I think this triangle is, and if you put Salesforce at the top, then the foundation layer is still a bit shaky. Right?
100%. Yeah. If I may just pull on that thread, if you allow
Yes.
me to just pick that up. Going back to change management, right?
Yes.
So we are helping the end users to adopt a new system. And it
Yeah.
just so happened that the new system is AI. The thing that I found in doing multiple projects is that the success of any transformation project depends on the leadership and the culture of the organization itself. So if you have an organization that that upholds its own internal values around integrity and trust and being transparent, then the people who are brought along for the change, who are going to be taking on and adopting the new system, will trust that the organization will benefit everybody. Now, if the organization is not of that kind of culture, then there is a fear of change. And I've been in many projects before where the end user is very resistant because there is a fear that the new system is going to take the job away. Now, you add the AI layer, if you don't deal with the fundamentals, the fear is going to be my job is going to be decimated even quicker. So, again, it's back to fundamentals. This is just an acceleration of change that we need to think about and factor in.
Interesting. Obviously, that debate about is AI enhancing the work of humans or replacing the work of humans? I think it's obvious, even in the narrative of Salesforce, as you pointed out, that there. I think it's even called digital workers. I think sometimes they're portrayed as digital labor, as the way in which Agentforce comes to life, and that is quintessentially the definition of it will replace some people's job by doing it itself. So I think that fear is probably correct, although I would argue that a good employee at any inflection point will see an opportunity to upskill and transform along with the transformation. So I feel like maybe, and I'm being maybe controversial or provocative here, shouldn't we leave behind those employees that fear the advent of AI because they will qualify themselves out anyway?
That is a really interesting framework, and I don't disagree that sometimes is what people use when they're doing kind of layoffs, for example, and transformation projects, and leaving behind people who are not willing to stay on the bus, stay on the rocket ship towards wherever the organization wants to go. I also feel that it is the organization's responsibility in terms of creating value internally so that the people want to embrace new technology. So it's all about change management and getting people excited and getting them included And I don't think that many organizations are there. What they see, what Mark Benioff is doing and what he's saying. So, for example, he's saying we're not hiring any more solutions engineers, but we are hiring 2,000 new salespeople to sell Agentforce. Now, that gives a kind of perception to many people. I totally get that AI and the agentic revolution can take away the more mundane kind of work, the more manual, the more um, not as high value type work, but it's the way we are doing it. And I don't think we are seeing many good examples on how to bring people along, and instead separating them by, oh, if you're not on board, you can find something elsewhere, but this is where we're going.
Actually, taking a step back and building on what you're saying, right? So let's actually look at the underlying issue that you also mentioned, which is systems and data are not ready for AI. That's where ultimately, well, two things really. One is it's likely that's the responsibility of the leadership, because you told me in a number of occasions that the success of any transformation project passes by leadership more than it passes by anybody else involved in the process. And two, so if it's unsuccessful or if there are gaps, then it goes back to leadership. So they need to take responsibility for that. And secondly, I think on the journey, which will lead to agentic AI, we need people. We need people to help get there. And maybe on the journey, we, alongside them, we will all find our new role in a transformed organization that will be ready to embrace AI. We just said it, most organizations are not ready. So how do we get those systems in place so that they are effectively, bringing people along and helping them on their transformation journey as well?
Let me put on the lens of a consulting partner, because that's kind of like where my career has been. What I would love to see is a partner who not only profess themselves to be Agentforce ready, but also have really, really strong foundation. So one of the things that we do and I do when I'm delivering projects is that we are actually coaching our clients. We're coaching them on the change management. So I would go to them and say, you need a comms plan. You need to be able to broadcast what you're trying to do and to get them excited so that when we go live, they are ready to embrace it. When they are being trained, they can come up with, oh, how about this and this and this in the next release. So I would like to see a partner who's actually providing a more holistic um, offering as a competitive advantage, to say, hey, we can help you, because we will also make sure that your foundations are strong, because we want to make sure that you can get the best benefit and long-term value out of your AI implementation. And at the same time, we can help you get your user adoption up by making sure that your change management is done properly. That would be what I would love to see.
You're right. That rather than creating this antagonizing situation where it's AI will take your job, it's actually a message that could come and should come from leadership, again, inviting a consulting company to do more than just an AI implementation and Agentforce, training and actions and all that comes with it, but rather it takes a view of how do we get the whole organization onto this journey and go to the other side. I think you're absolutely right there. Who's to blame then when in the marketplace right now, in your view, for what you hear, who's to blame and what's not working right now with Agentforce implementations? You look up and you see that some companies are not venturing yet into AI, they're kind of on the fence, or those that have started, they start so small that they don't see the impact. And is that because of that, the whole system is not ready, the whole people culture approach is not ready? What do you think?
I think actually for many people that it could be a use case issue as well. So them looking internally and not being able to see how and where AI can bring them forward, or they're unable to create. So I wrote two books. One is Successful Salesforce Projects 101, and I talk about building a business case before any projects. So it might be them not seeing the business case, or they might also be bogged down in the, we have so much data issue, we've got so much internal problem that this might just be one step too far. So that could be part of the whole resistance to coming on board.
Yeah, which is it looks like a mature approach to some extent, rather than diving into the new thing. First of all, you're saying start with an actual business need, right? So build a use case. So you're identifying some gaps in your organizations, and you want to take care of it. And you say, well, can AI help, or how would call it AI, call it however you want, how could that help? And then secondly, you're saying, look at how realistic is it that with the current state of your system, your data, your processes, you can actually deliver on the business use case.
If I may suggest one more, it is a little bit controversial, which is, during Dreamforce, and we see all the new demos that are being demoed during keynotes. Okay, so it's so shiny and so sexy, so wonderful. What they never or very rarely make known is, how did they get here? How long was the implementation? And what was the cost in terms of organizational change, in terms of the financial commitment to get to this very nice place? And I think maybe Salesforce has been a victim of their own success in how amazing the keynote demos are, that people think that it must be some smoke and mirrors, that we are not being told the true cost of getting there.
Yeah. Or they set the standard at the demo level, and then they release help.salesforce.com with Agentforce, and then it kind of implodes because it's like, you've seen the demo, they showed the vision and the end of the journey, and people then expect that on the first step of the journey, which is a very underwhelming feeling when you go to help.salesforce.com. You ask any questions, it's like, oh my god, really, I'll ask GPT then.
I think it's expectation management as well. And again, back to a few Dreamforce ago, we had Genie and how magical it was and how it kind of poofed away. So there is a healthy amount of skepticism, I think.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Genie was actually the precursor of Data Cloud, right?
Yes.
Or it became Data Cloud. And my whole point about Data Cloud is that the message for Salesforce has always been, Salesforce can do it. Show me your process, show me where you're storing data, and show me your payment management system, show me your inventory management, show me your configure quote system. Salesforce can do that. Bring it on Salesforce. That was the mandate up until a couple of years ago. Now that has changed. Now they're saying, okay, keep that process in place, but plug Data Cloud to it. So I think it's a realization that they cannot convince the whole world to put all their data in Salesforce. So say, okay, keep it where it is, but just plug it and let me access it so I can expose it to Agentforce and build an AI future, with Agentforce, with agentic AI on top of it. It's kind of an interesting perspective, because it is almost saying, well, CRM hasn't delivered or cannot deliver on everything. So let's move on and let's look at, what can we do with what we have, which I think goes back to what we were saying earlier about, CRM systems having gaps, and with the new narrative being even more so left behind and forgotten, which, as you said, it's probably the biggest mistake that we can do right now.
Yeah, and I just think that the user base just gets really confused in many different ways with the messaging, in terms of, oh, you can stand up and org in 3 days, but actually that's not true. You have all these things you got to do first, and then now you've got Agentforce, which can do so many things, and the ads with Matthew McConaughey and him being out in the rain and all these things just creates a big, again, expectations and dichotomy in their understanding of what exactly can it do for me and what does it cost me to get to where you think I should be. So it's, yeah, I just feel that that messaging could work a bit better.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if actually people take it at face value nowadays, because I think we're all used. Most people in the ecosystem have been there for a while. We've been to a few Dreamforce, we've watched a few keynotes, and we now don't take it anymore at face value. I think the challenge is always understanding what's the gap between that demo, that vision, the future that paints the future in a certain way, and what do we have to do today. What are my clients asking me today? What are my users asking me today? Or how can I make their life easier and my customers ultimately life easier, right? What are our solutions? How do we get ready to embrace AI? I think we touched on it. I want to conclude on some visionary statements, if we can. What do you think?
Before this, we were talking about children and education and how AI is going to play a part in creating leaders of the future. And I believe actually that we should embrace it and understand it and lead it. So, in terms of, the normal people will have used ChatGPT. So that is kind of a given, and that feels slightly different than Agentforce or AI within the Salesforce world, because it's just ubiquitous. Everyone can get access to it, play with it, test it out, find out all the edges of hallucination or not, and what it can and can't do based on their prompting abilities, and it's free. So I think that what the step change between us embracing LLMs in our own life and within Salesforce, in from my point of view, is a cost factor. What is it going to cost me to implement Agentforce, in terms of, again, finance, in terms of morale, in terms of the things that I would have to implement and organizational change. So I think that in order to get ready, we should just embrace it and learn more and more about it instead of fearing it, because those who fear it will be left behind. That is without a doubt, unless you work in a industry or a sector where it isn't touched by technology.
So you said those that fear it will be left behind. So let me ask you then, will the companies that don't feel ready also be left behind?
Unless their business is in an area where tech doesn't, not everyone's got a use case for AI. As an example, I was talking to someone who was in the crypto space, a B2B crypto space, where the sales cycles is very long, and where it's being closed by people and human connection and relationships. And there isn't a contact center, so to speak. So I was talking to this lady, and an architect within this organization. She couldn't figure out a use case for AI. So why should they, go ahead with that? So that was one example. So unless you're there, you look skeptical, and it'd be great to hear your thoughts. Do you think that there's always a use case?
I don't think there's a single area of our life that will not be impacted by AI. I cannot think of I mean, the most obvious is in our world, right? So the digital world, you're in front of a screen and it's predominantly text. There are elements that today are obvious that Salesforce, that AI is taking care of. In the near future, I mean, in agriculture, you would say, well, what's AI is going to do in agriculture? I was in Tuscany during the summer, and there was a little AI-powered autonomous machine that was actually, well, it was really nothing more than 4 wheels and a system on top with a couple of arms, and it was actually checking constantly in a field of olives if the olives were mature enough, and if the soil was moist in the right way, whatever the conditions that it was checking. And I was like, well, that's an application of AI in agriculture. And then I was thinking, construction, and then 3D building with AI is actually already happening, and 3D printing of houses, or I mean, it's a bit futuristic, but I struggle to see an area that will not be dramatically impacted of our lives and our work lives.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm asking about the use case of Agentforce within Salesforce. That was the specific thing I was thinking about because of this conversation I was having with this architect. But I absolutely see AI in touching many areas in our life, and if we don't embrace it, like I tell my kids, I said, figure out how to do your course using AI, and then figure out how to do better, and not just wait for it to give you the answer. I mean, there's different ways of relating to it.
Going back to a use case for Agentforce in an area where it doesn't look like there is, that you mentioned earlier, that there's a long sales cycles and a lot of human interaction with the buyer, and those type scenarios, they will still have a manager, and they will still need to, out of those long conversations and multiple touch points that they have, they will still need to distill information that they bring back to keep the rest of the organization updated through Salesforce. And an agent could actually automatically flag when certain information added is going in one direction or another. It could automatically trigger suggestions, or even craft a training course. You're now reaching this level of negotiation. You said that your next meeting is with the CFO to seal the deal. Here's 3 key areas that you need to get your skills up in preparation for the meeting next week. So that could be a proactive way in which Agentforce helps. It could become that the next negotiation, your agent will talk to my agent, but that I think is a bit in the future. But realistically, with today's technology, I think that's a scenario that could actually bring a lot of value, still keeping the same process in place and just elaborating on the use case that is likely already present there.
So this segues very nicely to what I want to talk about, which you didn't pay me for, but I saw your demo at a local meetup, and I was blown away by how your product could actually gather notes, recorded our meeting, and then produce a lot of very relevant insights and notes. And I think that absolutely would add value to a normal CRM, a Sales Cloud or anything like that. So sorry, in my head, I wasn't connecting it. What I was thinking, again, from a consulting point of view, it is building our own agent and trying to create everything from scratch, as opposed to getting an ISV app that already has AI to enhance the features and functionalities of that CRM. I'm just going to recommend your app to my friend to say, hey, have you thought about, you talk about long sales cycle, you can't see a use case. How about this? Do you not think that having the ability to record conversations, not having to type everything in, but have the AI actually intelligently distill information to make your life easier and provide coaching and maybe provide what your next steps ought to be, so to leave you free to do more strategic thinking?
Coming back to the earlier point, this actually plays into the data which is one of the biggest gaps and still one of the, or a part of the process that requires, commitment, discipline. Unless we automate it, that will still be there, and it will still be the missing link possibly between Agentforce being able to deliver huge returns and big value and impact, and where we are today. And that bridge is actually a bridge of data, the data point by data point. And that's why with our solution, we are going in that direction, because we see that as the biggest and the most strategic process that needs to take place, which is automating, capturing every single touch points, every single interaction, which Data Cloud takes care of from a data points perspective on all the systems that automate data capturing and record all the transactions and understand the inventory management and all of that. On the human side, on the CRM input side, there isn't anything that at the moment is helping people do that and become smarter with their data capture. And that's where we kind of fill the gap with our Vinton. So I appreciate the plug and on reflecting on data and their impact on Agentforce success. I want to finish with plug on Vinton, but I think we kind of want to wrap it up now, because I think we discussed a lot of things, and I like to end with a thought for the future. So when we have this conversation in 2 years' time, what do you think we will be discussing? More of the same, or will we have moved on? Will the word, Agentforce, have a different name? What's going to happen? What do you think?
I don't know. It depends whether you're talking about Agentforce specifically or AI as a whole. I think if we're talking about Agentforce, then the topics and the issues will remain, sadly, because even I started my consulting career 30 years ago. I was in a company that had Siebel, and so even longer standing Oracle, those sort of consultants, the conversations and the challenges they had then still holds true now, which is around data, around processes, around people. We still haven't nailed that. Although, they say with the advent of AI, you're accelerating. So if you're going the right direction, you're accelerating to the right way. If you're going the wrong way, you're going the wrong way much more quicker. So I don't have the answer to that, but it's an interesting conversation that we should carry on, highlighting, and not just all the sexy things, but all the other threads of the conversation should be discussed.
From my perspective, just building on that and just to bring it back, I think the companies that embrace AI, likely Agentforce in our world, but AI in general, and they do it right, they will have a competitive advantage. That's for sure. I don't know if and how many companies are ready to do that today, or would be confident in saying, yeah, in 2 years' time, with the deployment of AI, we will be here competitively. I think that's the gap that probably represents the opportunity for people like us, for our products, for our expertise, because I think that's needed more than in any other time, because of what you just exactly said, which is if AI is an accelerator, you need to make sure that you're accelerating in the right direction. Otherwise, you're going further away from where you need to be, where your objectives and goals should be.
100%. And you'll have spent a lot of money getting to the wrong place, which is painful.
Absolutely. And you'll get there very fast as well. You'll fail incredibly fast. With that, I've taken a lot of your time. I really appreciate you being with us, Pei, today. This was a very interesting conversation. I'm sure people that are listening have a lot of value. I certainly got a lot from it, and I really, really want to thank you.
Thank you for having me. This was super fun. Appreciate it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again. And guys, see you next time for the next episode of AI Readiness for Salesforce. Thank you.